Breathe in, breathe out.
Breathe in, breathe out.
Breathe in, breathe out.
And now, shout.
We sit on the side,
watching, waiting,
Contemplating, criticizing,
Justifying.
But hardly participating. We've been quiet too long.
Afraid to raise the question about things we do.
in continuing session.
the lies that all of us continue to tell.
while millions of people are heading to hell. Where are we going?
What are we doing? We'll stand in line while our coffee's brewing.
But not for each other. Not even a minute.
We might ask how you're doing, but our heart isn't in it.
Who are we helping? What have we done?
Have we changed a life? Touched even one?
Meanwhile, we'll watch TV and pretend to care about the pain.
Tragedy. Destruction.
That's everywhere. Our brothers,
Our sisters wander hopeless.
Treading life's murky water, while we ignore the continuing slaughter.
The enemy would love it if we continue to ignore.
the plight of the desperate, the broken, the abuser.
Like we did before.
A rescuer came, made sure we were freed.
But the rescued won't return the favor to captives in need.
Come on, people, I'm telling myself too.
There's too many hurting. There's too much to do. To sit on our hands and wish we were more.
There are multitudes dying, trying to unlock an opened door.
He came and gave us a key. Now let's stop waiting and use it, please.
It's time to go. Yes, you and me.
Let's help the suffocating and help them.
To breathe.
What if we really loved each other the way Jesus loved us? When he spoke those words in John's Gospel, it wasn't just a suggestion. It was to be how we were to live our lives every single day. As we look back over this year, a year that has been anything but predictable, we thought it would be valuable to hear from some of our pastoral staff as they spoke to us in recent months. In our Reset message series, our spiritual formation pastor, Cliff Washburn, talked to us about the emphasis of not doing life alone. Let's check it out.
Over 50 times in the New Testament, the phrases one another or each other are used. Seriously, like the Bible tells us to love each other. Okay, I'm going to roll through a couple of these. Love each other, pray for each other, encourage each other, admonish each other, greet each other, serve each other, teach each other, accept each other, honor each other, bear each other's burdens, forgive each other, submit to each other, be devoted to each other, and believe me, many, many more each others. So why is the Bible so bent on making us be with each other? Because there's things that happen in there that allow us to become better people when we are with each other. Let me just name three, and this is no surprise to any of you, but there's three simple things that can happen out of that, even though there's plenty more. Let me go on these three. Number one, to reinforce. Okay, to encourage is what this is. And in 1 Peter 4, 8 through 10, it says, most important of all, continue to show deep love for each other. For love covers a multitude of sins. Cheerfully share your home with those who need a meal or a place to stay. God has given each of you a gift from His great variety of spiritual gifts. Use them well to serve one another. Encourage each other. Man, help each other grow. Help each other keep along in the path. Reach out to people. Don't let them be alone. And don't settle with being alone. That's how we work together. Here's number two, to re-engage. This is an area of accountability. In Hebrews 3:13, now I'm using two different translations for this. The first is the NIV, and I've been using the NLT mostly, but first is the NIV, and it says this, Hebrews 3:13, encourage one another daily so that none of you may be hardened by sin's deceitfulness. Now, you may think, well, why did you put that in the encouragement one up, number one? Because here's the translation from the New Living Testament, which is really, really cool. You must warn each other every day while it is still today, so that none of you will be deceived by sin and hardened against God. So instead of encourage one another, it says you should warn each other. So it's more than just like going, hey, Beck, good work. It's like, dude, you are too close to the line. Man, don't forget what we're trying to accomplish here. Don't forget, this is a God thing. Like, get away from that line. You don't need to be there. Or even maybe, did you cross the line? Well, that would be number 3. Number 3 would be to redirect and affirm. See, God speaks to us through people. God speaks to us through the each others.
Who are the each others that are speaking to you? Maybe it's a close friend or mentor, or maybe, as our executive pastor Sandy Cook shared with us, it's a voice from the Bible that still echoes truth today. So, let's listen as he shares the words from the Apostle Paul and the importance of pursuing peace.
And so here's what I want to do. I want to look at Philippians 4, verses 4 to 9, and this is going to be on the screen. And I think if we think about connecting things together, our peace will be more successful. And so Philippians 4 says, "Rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice." So we talked about the fact that if something's written twice, it's really important, right? So rejoice, I say it again, rejoice. There must be something important to this part. "Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God." What happens next? "And the peace of God," if you do all of this, the peace of God, which transcends all understanding. Now, the word transcends means it's over, it's above, it surpasses, it's greater than all understanding, all human understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. "Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things." Is there anything there in verse 8 that's disturbing or stressful or warring? There's not, is there? In verse 9, "Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen from me, put it into practice, and the God of peace will be with you." There's 2 things that I think are really important in this passage. Number 1, it's about thinking, and number 2, it's about acting. That's what this comes down to. If you rejoice, if you give your stuff to God, and you do it with thanksgiving, and then you think about the good things, then the peace of God will fill you. But what happens for most of us, I know for me, I think about the negative aspect of what's going to happen, right? Or you look at the circumstances and you think, only bad can come from this. Do you know that over history, when there's been negative events happening, there have been amazingly positive things come out of it? New businesses are started, right? New laws are passed that protect people. Different things happen in other countries, and peace comes sometimes out of an unsettledness because we have a conversation. And sometimes it's as simple as having a conversation. But what I want you to understand is that moment that you take away by yourself, whether it be by the water or watching the trees, if you take that and you remove your situation, you take the time to give whatever it is you're struggling with to God, and you give thanks. You lift it to Him in thanksgiving. And you think about the things that are pure, the things that are lovely, the things that are of good report. Then we're promised that the God of peace will give us peace that passes all understanding. And so we have to think and act. If you think negatively and act negatively, what are you going to get? Negative results, right? You think and act positively, you're going to get positivity. And this is not one of these self-help feel-good things. My point is this: if you do the right things and you give your needs and struggles to God, and you think about the good in your life, then he says, I will give you my peace. Here's what I think, very simply, pursuing peace comes down to. Pursuing peace takes courage and time. It means finding common ground, and it requires trust in God. Pursuing peace takes courage, and it takes time. It means finding common ground, and it requires us to trust God.
Trusting God seems a lot easier to do when life is going smoothly. But the Apostle Paul knew what it meant to trust in the Lord when times got incredibly difficult. So James, the brother of Jesus, also knew what enduring hardship looked like. Our Northport campus youth pastor, Shane Hotchkin, brought the life of James to the forefront of his message when he spoke about the power of perseverance.
And James is talking to us in this scripture that we're going to be looking at, and he takes perseverance to a whole other level. So we're going to look at James chapter 1, verses 1 through 4. And it says this, James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes scattered among the nations, greetings. Consider it pure joy when you face various trials, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work in you so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. So let's dive into this text and really unpack what James is saying. So he kicks it off saying, I am a servant of God. I am a slave of God, and my master is Jesus, and I have willingly made a decision to fasten my life to Jesus. And Jesus is moving, so I better keep up, I better focus, and I better pay attention. Then he goes on and he writes, to the people scattered amongst the nations that are actively living for Jesus. And I'm here in Florida. A lot of you watching are in Florida. And then we have people who are snowbirds who come here to Florida when it's really cold where they're at, and I totally understand. And then we have people that are connected to our church that are in other nations. And James was writing to the people then, and he writes to us today. And then it goes on to say, consider it pure joy when you face trials. Now, this sounds like a paradox. We wanted to say, consider it pure joy when the kids are acting right. Or consider it pure joy when the marriage is going great. Or consider it pure joy when the finances are going great. Or consider it pure joy when everything in life is going the way it should. No, that's not what James is writing. He says, consider it pure joy whenever you face trials of many kinds. This joy, it helps us and the trials, through the trials that we face, and those trials that we face connect us directly to Jesus because he endured the cross and he shows us and tells us how we can overcome through him and the joy that he brings to our lives. And the scriptures say when you fall into trials, not if. Trials, hard times, hurting times, they're inevitable. And the particular trials that James is writing about in here are unescapable. They're going to happen. It's like falling into a pit, but the only thing that you can do is look to Jesus and allow him to bring that joy into your life during those tough times. And it says many kinds of trials, so there's going to be a variety. But listen to this. If we're all going through different trials and we allow the joy that Jesus brings us and we allow God to bring us through those trials, then we're going to have a variety of stories that point to God's faithfulness in our lives. And that's exciting. That is awesome. Then James talks about the testing of our faith. Now, this paints a picture for us because Silversmiths, when they worked with silver, they would put the silver over an intense fire, and the fire would burn, and then the impurities would rise to the surface, and they would remove those to the point that they could see their reflection in the silver. And it made me think that there are so many times that we allow life to throw trials at us, and things come to the surface of our lives, and we should be reflecting Christ in the way that we live, but things surface in our lives that don't point people to Christ. So I just want to take a moment and have all of us just evaluate and say, what am I reflecting in this season? If you're going through things, if you're dealing with things, what is surfacing in your life?
When we face trials, the faith that is produced in us during them will produce stories for us to tell of how good God really is. So when trials hit your own life, what surfaces, and most importantly, who do you reflect? Last month, our Northport campus pastor, Eddie Byer, spoke to us about choosing hope. He told the story from 2 Kings chapter 4 about the Shunamite woman. Even when her only son had died, her faith in God led to this encounter with the prophet Elisha.
So this woman from Shunam, she carries the dead boy up to where Elisha typically sleeps when he comes into town. And she lays this boy on Elisha's bed. And she shuts the door and she leaves him there. And verse number 22 says, she sent a message to her husband. Send one of the servants and a donkey so that I can hurry to the man of God. And I can come right back. Church, she didn't even mention that the son was dead. Now, if you think you have communication problems in your marriage, I mean, that's pretty significant to leave out, right? The boy's dead upstairs. I mean, come on, somebody. But the husband asks a question. In verse number 23, he says, well, why are you going today? It's neither a new moon or a festival or a Sabbath. Why are you going today? And the question suggests that it's not uncommon for this woman to go and see Elisha, but that the timing of this visit was a bit unusual to the husband. And so the woman responds, it will be all right. Another translation says that it is well. It is well. The child lays dead in an upstairs room. It's an interesting thing to say when you just lost a child. Yet she says to her husband, it is well. This woman's life seemingly just changed in an instant. And it's no different in our lives as well. They have the potential to change in an instant. And we all know this to be true, especially in the season that we currently find ourselves in right now. 2020 hasn't exactly gone as status quo. So how do we look to hope in such difficult times? There's a man by the name of Horatio Spafford that knew something about life's unexpected challenges and how to cling to faith and hope in extremely difficult circumstances. He was a successful attorney and a real estate investor who lost a great fortune in the Chicago fire of 1871. Around the same time, his beloved 4-year-old son died of scarlet fever, much like the story of the woman from Shunam just lost her son. And thinking that a vacation would do his family some good, Horatio sent his wife and 4 daughters on a trip to England, planning to join them after he finished some pressing things that he had to finish at home. However, while crossing the Atlantic Ocean, the ship was involved in a terrible collision and it sunk. More than 200 people lost their lives, including all 4 of Horatio Spafford's daughters. His wife Anna survived the tragedy, and upon arriving in England, she sent a telegram to her husband that began, "I'm saved. What shall I do?" Horatio immediately set sail for England. And at one point during that voyage, the captain of that ship, who was aware of the tragedy that had taken place, he summoned Horatio to tell them that they were now passing over the spot where that shipwreck had occurred. And as Horatio thought about his daughters as they passed over that spot, words of comfort and hope filled his heart and mind, and he wrote them down. And they have since become a well-beloved song and hymn. When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to know, it is well. It is well with my soul.
We want to thank you for joining us. Our hope is that you were reminded today, or maybe even discovered for the very first time, that Jesus is our champion. If you decided to give him full control in your life, then we want to ask you to do something right now and text the word forgiven to 941-208-0078. We want to celebrate this incredible decision with you. Also, as a reminder, our church offices will be closed through January the 2nd. And there will be no 212 student events until January the 5th at our Northport campus and January the 6th at our Punta Gorda campus. Enjoy the rest of your day as we prepare for an incredible 2021. Have a great day.